He lived among them. He waved at neighbors, went to church, and even enforced city codes. But behind closed doors, Dennis Rader was a predator who called himself BTK, an acronym that stood for bind, torture, kill. For 30 years he stalked, terrorized, and murdered in the shadows, while the world never suspected the man who lived right next door. In Wichita, Kansas, throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, a series of murders left the community terrified. The killer was methodical, sadistic, and taunted police with letters, proving he was still out there. The victims were ordinary people. Mothers, fathers, children, neighbors, cut down in the prime of their lives. The man behind it all, Dennis Rader, a church leader, Boy Scout volunteer, and city employee. A man who appeared ordinary, even respectable, yet harbored one of the darkest secrets in American crime history. This is the story of the BTK killer. His double life, his crimes, and the decades-long hunt to finally bring him to justice. Dennis Lynn Rader was born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, the eldest of 4 brothers. His childhood appeared normal on the surface, but he displayed disturbing behaviors early on. He admitted later that from a young age, he fantasized about bondage and control. Rader tortured animals, a common red flag in budding psychopaths, and developed a fascination with tying ropes and imagining helpless victims. He felt invisible, ignored by his parents, and later claimed this fueled his desire for control. By adulthood, Dennis Rader appeared to be the opposite of a criminal. He served in the Air Force, married his wife Paula, had 2 children, and was an active member of his church. To neighbors, he was a reliable man, even working as a compliance officer where he enforced community regulations. Yet behind his calm smile, a sadistic alter ego festered. The first victims were the Otero family, Joseph, Julie, and their 2 children, Joseph Jr. and Josephine. The Oteros were described as warm and hardworking. Joseph Sr., a retired Air Force man, was strict but loving. Julie was a devoted mother. The children, ages 9 and 11, were innocent, bright, and full of promise. Later victims included Catherine Bright, a college student with dreams of independence, Shirley Vian, a young mother of 3, Nancy Fox, a secretary who longed for stability, and others. Each of these victims had full, vibrant lives that were brutally cut short. They were not statistics. They were real people whose only mistake was crossing paths with Dennis Rader. Even while raising a family, Rader's fantasies escalated. He engaged in secret sexual rituals, dressing in women's clothing he stole, tying himself up, and taking photos. He developed what he called projects, stalking potential victims, studying their routines, and planning elaborate abductions. Yet in public, Rader masked himself as a man of faith and civic duty. His letters to police revealed his narcissism. He demanded attention, named himself BTK, and reveled in the fear he spread. On January 15, 1974, Dennis Rader acted on his darkest fantasies. Armed with a plan, he targeted the Otero family home. He had stalked them and waited for the perfect moment. Later, he would recall that once he began, he couldn't stop. The urge had consumed him. At the Otero residence, Rader cut the phone lines and entered the home. He forced the family into submission at gunpoint. In a chilling display of control, he bound each family member with cords. He strangled Joseph and Julie before turning to the children. Joseph Jr. fought desperately but was overpowered. Finally, he took 11-year-old Josephine into the basement, where he hanged her. This was only the beginning. Over the years, Rader struck again and again, each time with methodical cruelty, binding, torturing, and killing. When the Otero children who weren't home returned, they discovered the unimaginable. Wichita police were stunned. The brutality suggested a calculated predator, not a random act. As more murders occurred, police struggled to connect them. But then the letters began. Rader taunted investigators, detailing his crimes with chilling accuracy. He wanted fame, recognition, to be feared. The Wichita community lived in terror, locking doors, avoiding going out alone. BTK became a phantom in the night. Despite his taunts, BTK eluded capture for decades. DNA technology was limited, and Rader was careful, leaving little evidence. But in 2004, after years of silence, BTK resurfaced. He began sending letters and packages again. In one critical mistake, Rader sent police a floppy disk. Forensics traced metadata on the disk back to the Christ Lutheran Church and Dennis Rader. This digital breadcrumb cracked the case wide open. On February 25, 2005, police arrested Dennis Rader. At first, neighbors were stunned. This was the church president, the family man. But under questioning, Rader cracked. He coolly confessed to his murders, relishing in the details. He described his victims as projects, showing no remorse. His lack of empathy shocked even veteran detectives. Rader pled guilty in June 2005. In court, he gave chillingly detailed descriptions of each murder, horrifying the victims' families who sat in the gallery. The judge sentenced him to 10 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Rader would spend the rest of his life behind bars. For Wichita, the arrest of BTK ended decades of fear. But for the families, closure was complicated. Their loved ones could never return. Dennis Rader remains in prison in Kansas. His case is studied worldwide as a chilling example of a serial killer hiding in plain sight, living a double life of outward normalcy and inner monstrosity. Dennis Rader showed us that evil can wear a smile, sit in a pew, and wave to a neighbor. The BTK killer was not a monster lurking in the dark alley. He was a man who lived among us. And that is perhaps the most terrifying truth of all. If you found this documentary insightful, please consider subscribing to DarkCrime for more true crime stories. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. What do you think drives a man like Dennis Rader to live such a double life? And most importantly, let us never forget the victims, whose lives mattered far more than the man who stole them.